She was just a delivery girl, hustling to make it through another night shift when fate intervened. She stumbled upon a stranger, clinging to life in the wreckage of a car crash, and selflessly offered him her blood without even knowing his name. Unbeknownst to her, the man she saved was none other than the city's most formidable and feared mafia boss, a man who would never let such a debt go unpaid. The cold rain lashed at Maya's face like 1,000 tiny needles as she navigated her bicycle through the deserted streets of Lower Manhattan. The clock read 11:47 p.m. Just 3 more deliveries, and she could finally head home, collapse into bed, and escape the relentless grind, even if only for a few precious hours. The familiar buzz of her phone against the handlebar mount broke her weary focus. Another order. Squinting through the rain-streaked screen, she saw it was a delivery for Chinese food, heading uptown. The tip was exceptionally generous. She couldn't afford to pass it up. Last one, Maya muttered to herself, her breath misting in the crisp October air. Then sleep, actual uninterrupted sleep. She had been relentlessly working double shifts for 3 grueling weeks. Rent was looming large, a constant source of anxiety. Her student loans, a seemingly insurmountable mountain of debt, weren't going to magically disappear. And her mother's mounting nursing home bills continued to climb, a heavy weight on her young shoulders. At just 23 years old, she already felt utterly and completely exhausted, drained of all vitality. That was Maya Chen's life, boiled down to its stark essence. The streets were desolate, precisely how she preferred them. No maddening traffic jams, no suffocating crowds of tourists, just her and the city's skeletal crew of nocturnal workers, the unsung heroes who kept things running while the rest of the world slumbered. She took her usual route up 6th Avenue, her leg muscles burning with the familiar ache of 12 hours of constant pedaling. Then, shattering the night's stillness, she heard it. The unmistakable screech of tires fighting for grip on the wet asphalt. The sickening crunch of metal twisting and tearing. The sharp, crystalline explosion of glass shattering into a million fragments. Maya's head whipped around, instinctively drawn to the source of the chaos. 2 blocks ahead, at the intersection, a sleek black luxury sedan had violently T-boned a delivery truck. The sedan's front end was a mangled mess, completely crumpled like a discarded piece of paper, with plumes of steam hissing from under the hood. The truck driver, miraculously, stumbled out of his vehicle, dazed and disoriented, but seemingly able to walk. But from the sedan, there was no sign of life. Nobody was emerging from the twisted wreckage. Maya's initial, gut reaction was to keep pedaling, to distance herself from the situation as quickly as possible. Not your problem, she told herself. Call 911 and move on. Don't get involved. New York City had instilled that lesson in her early on, survival of the fittest, mind your own business. But her legs, as if acting independently of her will, had already ceased their rhythmic motion. Damn it, she whispered under her breath, reluctantly dropping her bike against a nearby lamppost. The insulated delivery bag bounced against her hip as she sprinted toward the scene of the accident. The truck driver was already on his phone, yelling incoherently into the receiver, his voice laced with panic. Maya disregarded him, focusing her attention solely on the sedan. Through the spider-webbed cracks of the windshield, she could make out the figure of a man slumped over the steering wheel. Blood. So much blood, staining everything crimson. Hey! Maya shouted, her voice barely audible above the rain and the truck driver's frantic shouting. She yanked on the driver's side door, but it remained stubbornly locked. Without hesitation, she ran to the passenger side, grasping the handle. With a sickening groan of protesting, twisted metal, the door finally yielded open. The man appeared to be in his late 30s or early 40s, with dark hair and wearing an expensive suit, now tragically soaked in his own blood. His breathing was shallow and labored, a disturbing bubbling sound accompanying each ragged inhale. But it quickly became apparent that the car crash wasn't the primary cause of his dire condition. There was a distinct bullet hole visible in his left shoulder, a grim testament to a far more sinister event. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear and adrenaline. This wasn't just a car accident. This was something far more dangerous. Something she had inadvertently stumbled into. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, leaning across the passenger seat, her voice trembling slightly. She desperately checked for a pulse, finding it weak but present. His eyelids fluttered open, revealing dark brown eyes, almost black, filled with an intense pain. But beneath the pain, she also detected something else, a chilling calculation, as if even in the face of death, he was assessing her, evaluating her worth. "Hospital," he managed to croak out, blood flecking his lips with each word. "Not police." "You need both," Maya countered, already instinctively dialing 911 on her phone. His hand shot out with surprising force, gripping her wrist tightly, halting her actions. "No police, please," he pleaded, his voice laced with a raw desperation that made her hesitate. Maya had encountered plenty of desperate voices throughout her life. Her father, before he abandoned them, consumed by his own demons. Her mother, before the cruel grip of dementia stole her memories and her very essence. She recognized the genuine article when she heard it. "You're going to die if I don't get you help," Maya stated flatly, her voice betraying none of the turmoil raging within her. "Then I die." His grip loosened slightly. "Better than the alternative." Maya stared at him, taking in the details. The impeccably tailored suit, the expensive Rolex adorning his wrist, the instinctive way his other hand moved toward his hip, where a weapon probably was or had been before the ambush. In that moment, she made a decision that would irrevocably alter the course of her life. "Mount Sinai is 2 blocks away," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Can you move?" The man's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "Help me," he rasped. "I'm already regretting it," Maya muttered under her breath. "Come on." Summoning all her strength, she managed to drag him halfway out of the mangled car before his dead weight nearly brought them both crashing to the ground. He was surprisingly heavy, a solid mass of muscle concealed beneath that expensive suit. Maya wedged her shoulder under his arm and, with a grunt of effort, half carried, half dragged him toward the sidewalk. "My bike!" she gasped, her lungs burning. "We'll use my bike." It was an insane plan, utterly reckless and illogical. But Maya had spent her entire life overcoming seemingly impossible odds, tackling challenges that would have broken a lesser person. One more impossible feat wouldn't kill her, she reasoned, or at least, she hoped it wouldn't. It took 5 agonizing minutes, each one feeling like an eternity, to get him precariously seated on the rear rack of her bicycle, his arms wrapped loosely around her waist for support. He was rapidly fading, his breathing becoming more labored with each passing second. Maya pedaled with a ferocity she never knew she possessed, ignoring the searing pain in her thighs, the relentless rain blinding her vision, the warm, sticky blood seeping through her jacket, a macabre reminder of the gravity of the situation. The emergency room doors blazed with welcoming light ahead, a beacon of hope in the dark, rain-soaked night. "Stay with me," Maya urged, though she wasn't entirely sure if she was speaking to him or to herself, a desperate attempt to ward off the inevitable. They crashed through the ER entrance, quite literally. Maya's bike skidded precariously on the slick, wet floor, and they both went down in a tangled heap of limbs and twisted metal. Nurses and doctors swarmed around them instantly, their practiced movements a testament to countless similar emergencies. "Gunshot wound," Maya gasped, struggling to catch her breath. "Upper left shoulder. He's lost a lot of blood." They quickly loaded him onto a gurney and wheeled him away, a flurry of hurried instructions and concerned voices filling the air. A doctor barked orders, his face etched with urgency. Someone began firing questions at Maya, but she could barely process them through the haze of adrenaline and shock. Then, a nurse abruptly grabbed her arm, her expression grave. "What's his blood type?" "I don't. How would I know?" Maya stammered, her mind racing. "Ma'am, we're critically low on O negative and he's hemorrhaging badly. We don't have time to waste testing him. Without a transfusion, he's not going to make it." "Test me," Maya interrupted, her voice firm despite her trembling hands. "I'm O negative. I'll donate." She wasn't supposed to know her blood type, But she did. Her mother, in a rare moment of clarity before the dementia fully consumed her, had drilled it into her memory, along with her social security number and emergency contacts. A desperate attempt to equip her daughter with the essentials for survival. The nurse's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you sure? Test me now," Maya insisted, brooking no argument. 20 minutes later, Maya found herself seated in a sterile plastic chair, a needle inserted into her arm, watching her lifeblood flow through clear tubes into a collection bag. Her hand trembled uncontrollably, a reaction to the adrenaline crash, or perhaps delayed shock, or maybe the unsettling realization that she had just saved a man who had explicitly begged her not to involve the police. What had she done? A doctor approached her, peeling off blood-stained gloves. "He's stable," he announced, his voice laced with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. "Critical but stable. You saved his life." He paused, studying her with a thoughtful gaze. "Both times, actually. Your blood bought us the time we needed." "Will he make it?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Too early to say for sure," the doctor replied honestly. "But he's got a fighting chance now." The doctor's gaze lingered on her, a hint of concern in his eyes. "The police will want to talk to him. And to you. Gunshot wounds are." "I know," Maya said quietly, cutting him off. "I'll wait." But when the police finally arrived an hour later, the man was officially listed as John Doe. No identification, no wallet, no phone, nothing to indicate his identity. And when they pressed her for details, Maya realized, with a growing sense of unease, that she had nothing to offer them. She didn't know his name, didn't know where he came from, didn't know anything about him except that he had been dying, and she had, against her better judgment, helped him. The police officers looked skeptical, their expressions conveying a mixture of suspicion and disbelief, but they ultimately let her go with a stern warning to remain available for follow-up questions. Maya walked out of the hospital at 3:17 a.m. Her bike retrieved from the ER entrance, her body aching in protest, her delivery bag still faintly smelling of the Chinese food that had grown cold and unappetizing hours ago. She had lost an entire night's wages, a significant blow to her already precarious financial situation. She would probably get fired for missing those deliveries, another crushing setback in her relentless struggle to survive. And she had willingly given her blood to a stranger who might very well be a dangerous criminal. But he was alive, she reminded herself. That had to count for something, didn't it? Maya pedaled wearily home through the dying rain, completely unaware that she had just saved the life of the most dangerous man in New York City, a man who would never, ever forget her act of selfless bravery. Maya's alarm clock screamed at 6:30 a.m., its shrill tone a jarring intrusion into her fleeting slumber. She had managed to sleep for exactly 2 hours, a woefully inadequate amount of rest to replenish her depleted energy reserves. Her body felt as if it had been run over by the same delivery truck from the previous night's accident, every muscle aching in protest. The crook of her elbow throbbed with dull pain where they had drawn her blood, a constant reminder of the previous night's events. But rent didn't care about exhaustion. Bills didn't care about sleep deprivation. So Maya reluctantly dragged herself out of bed and pulled on her worn delivery uniform, preparing to face another day of relentless work. Her phone displayed 17 missed calls from her supervisor, their unspoken message clear. She would deal with that impending storm later, she decided, mentally bracing herself for the inevitable reprimand. The next 2 days blurred together into a monotonous haze of peddling, deliveries, and a desperate attempt to avoid thinking about the man she had saved, to bury the memories and pretend it had never happened. Maya obsessively checked the news, scouring every article and broadcast for any mention of the incident. Nothing. No reports of a shooting. No mysterious John Doe in critical condition. No police appeals for information or witnesses. It was as if that night had never occurred, a figment of her sleep-deprived imagination. Maybe that was for the best, she reasoned. Maybe she could just forget about it, chalk it up to a bizarre encounter, and move on with her life, resuming her relentless pursuit of survival. Except she couldn't shake the vivid memory of those dark, intense eyes, calculating her worth even as he lay on the brink of death, a haunting image that refused to fade. On the third day, Maya noticed the car. A sleek black SUV, with heavily tinted windows that obscured the interior, parked across the street from her apartment building. She had walked past it 3 times before her weary brain finally registered that it was consistently there, always in the same spot, the same vehicle, never moving. Probably nothing, she told herself, trying to dismiss her growing unease. Parking was notoriously difficult in her neighborhood, a constant struggle for limited space. People often left their cars parked for days, even weeks, without moving them. But then, she saw it again during her lunch delivery run in Midtown. A different location, but the same car, or perhaps a different car that looked identical. Another sleek black SUV with tinted windows, lurking on the periphery. Maya couldn't be sure if it was the same vehicle or simply a similar one, but the coincidence was enough to send a chill down her spine. Her hands tightened their grip on the handlebars, her knuckles turning white. Paranoia, she muttered to herself, trying to rationalize her mounting anxiety. That's all this is. Lack of sleep and too much stress are making me see things that aren't there. That evening, after another grueling day of deliveries, she returned to her tiny studio apartment to find an envelope taped to her door. No name, no address, just a plain manila envelope, sealed shut. Maya's heart immediately began to pound in her chest, a frantic drumbeat of apprehension. She glanced up and down the hallway, but it was deserted, eerily silent. With a hesitant hand, she peeled the envelope off the door and carried it inside, quickly locking the door behind her and wedging a chair under the handle. An old habit ingrained from her days living in a much rougher neighborhood, a small measure of added security. Inside the envelope, she found $500 in crisp, neatly stacked $20 bills. No note, no explanation, just cold, hard cash. Maya's hands trembled as she counted the money, carefully verifying the amount. Definitely $500. More than she made in an entire week of grueling deliveries. This was wrong, she thought, her mind racing. This was very, very wrong. She grabbed her phone, intending to call. Who? The police? And say what? Someone gave me money? They would laugh her out of the precinct. Dismiss her concerns as the ramblings of a sleep-deprived delivery girl. She reluctantly stuffed the cash back into the envelope and shoved it into her desk drawer, trying to distance herself from the unsettling gift. Maybe someone had made a mistake, she reasoned, clinging to a thread of hope. Maybe it was meant for another apartment in the building, a case of mistaken identity. She would return it to the building manager tomorrow, she decided, hoping to resolve the mystery and alleviate her growing anxiety. But the next morning, there was another envelope, identical to the first, taped to her door. Another $500. What the hell? Maya whispered, staring at the money spread across her kitchen counter. The crisp bills a stark contrast to the worn linoleum. $1,000, just sitting there, unexplained, unwanted, and deeply unsettling. She couldn't bring herself to take it with her to work, the weight of the money a burden she couldn't bear. She left both envelopes locked securely in her apartment, as if distance would somehow make them less real, less menacing. During her afternoon shift, while she was stopped at a red light, waiting to make a delivery, a man in a suit approached her. Professional, clean-cut, but with the unmistakable build of someone who knew how to inflict pain. Someone who was accustomed to violence. "Maya-chan?" he asked, his voice polite but firm. Every instinct screamed at her to pedal away, to flee the scene as quickly as possible. "Who's asking?" she replied, her voice barely a whisper, trying to maintain a semblance of composure. "A friend wanted me to check on you. Make sure you're doing all right," he said, his smile failing to reach his cold, calculating eyes. "You helped someone recently. That someone is very grateful." The man from the hospital, she realized, a wave of dread washing over her. "I don't want anything," Maya said quickly, interrupting him. He was dying. Anyone would have done the same." "No," the man said softly, shaking his head. "They wouldn't, and that's why you're being looked after now." "I don't need looking after," Maya protested, her voice rising slightly in defiance. "Not your decision," the man replied, his tone brooking no argument. He handed her a business card, seemingly unremarkable. Blank, except for a single phone number printed in the center. You need anything, anything at all, you call that number, day or night, he instructed, his voice devoid of emotion. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowded sidewalk like smoke, leaving Maya standing there, her stomach churning with a mixture of fear and apprehension. Maya stared at the card, her mind racing. She should throw it away, she knew. She should throw away the money, forget any of this ever happened, and try to reclaim her life before it was irrevocably entangled in something far bigger and more dangerous than she could possibly imagine. Instead, against her better judgment, she tucked the card into her wallet, a small, insidious seed of potential disaster. That night, Maya couldn't sleep, her mind plagued by unsettling thoughts and anxieties. She kept checking her window, peering into the darkness, searching for the telltale silhouette of the black SUV. It was there, parked under a broken street light, almost invisible in the shadows, a silent, watchful presence. They were watching her, she realized, either protecting her or making sure she stayed quiet. A constant reminder of the precarious situation she had unwittingly stumbled into. At 2:47 a.m., her phone buzzed insistently, the sudden vibration jolting her awake. Unknown number. Her thumb hovered over the decline button, her instincts screaming at her to ignore the call. But curiosity, that dangerous, stupid curiosity, ultimately prevailed, compelling her to answer. "Hello?" she said, her voice barely audible. Silence, then the faint sound of breathing, then a voice, deep and accented, rough like gravel wrapped in velvet. A voice that sent a shiver down her spine. "You gave me life," the voice said, each word carefully measured. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She knew that voice, recognized it instantly from the car, from his desperate whisper in the rain. "Who is this?" she asked, but she already knew the answer. "Someone who owes you everything," the voice continued, then a brief pause. "They tell me you won't accept payment. That troubles me." "I didn't do it for money," Maya said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice, a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within her. "I know," the voice replied, his tone softening slightly. "That's why you deserve it even more." Another pause, longer this time. "You're safe now. No one will touch you, ever. That's my promise." "I don't want your promises," Maya retorted, her voice laced with defiance. "I don't want your money. I just want a normal life." The voice carried a hint of dark amusement. "I'm afraid that's no longer possible," he said, his words hanging heavy in the air. "You saved Victor Marino. People will want to know why. People will wonder what you know. So yes, Miss Chen, you do want my protection, whether you realize it or not." The line went dead, leaving Maya in the suffocating silence of her dark apartment, phone clutched tightly in her shaking hand, finally understanding the terrible truth. She hadn't just saved a man's life. She had unwittingly bound herself to a devil, a dangerous connection that would forever alter the course of her destiny. The penthouse overlooked Manhattan like a throne surveying its vast empire. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city's glittering sprawl, a dazzling display of millions of lights, representing millions of lives, all of them rendered insignificant from that lofty height. Victor Marino stood at those windows, a glass of amber whiskey untouched in his hand, his gaze fixed on the mesmerizing cityscape. His left shoulder was still bandaged beneath his impeccably tailored silk shirt, the wound healing slower than his patience allowed. But he was alive, against all odds, against his enemies' meticulously crafted plans. He had survived. Behind him, his loyal lieutenant, Dmitry Volov, waited in respectful silence, his presence a constant reassurance. Dmitry had faithfully served the Marino family for 20 years, first Victor's father, and now Victor himself. He was unfailingly loyal, ruthlessly efficient, and currently noticeably confused by his boss's unusual behavior. "You've been staring at that file for 3 days," Dmitry finally said, breaking the tense silence. "It's a delivery girl. Nobody important." Victor turned away from the window, his dark eyes cold and piercing. "She saved my life," he stated, his voice leaving no room for argument. "She was convenient," Dimitri countered, his tone pragmatic. "Wrong place, right blood type. Luck." "No," Victor said firmly, dismissing the suggestion. He walked slowly to a nearby desk, set down the untouched glass of whiskey, and picked up the folder again, his gaze intently focused on its contents. Maya Chen's entire life, meticulously documented in 40 detailed pages. Born in Queens. Father disappeared when she was 8, leaving her and her mother to fend for themselves. Mother in a nursing home, battling advanced dementia, her memories fading like distant stars. Crushing student loan debt from a college degree she never finished, a casualty of her family's financial struggles. 3 low-paying jobs in the past year, a testament to her tireless work ethic. Currently employed by Fast Bite Delivery, racing against the clock to deliver food and make ends meet. Rent 2 months overdue before his money mysteriously arrived, a clear indication of her desperate circumstances. "She chose to help," Victor said, his voice barely a whisper, a hint of admiration lacing his tone. "That's not luck. That's character." Dimitri shifted uncomfortably, sensing his boss's growing fascination with this ordinary woman. "Boss, the Koslov syndicate thinks you're dead," he reminded him, trying to redirect his attention back to more pressing matters. "That's good for us. We can move against them while their guard is down, exploit their moment of weakness." "But if they find out about the girl," Victor said, cutting him off, "they won't hesitate to use her against me. They have eyes everywhere," Dimitri acknowledged, his expression grim. "Someone saw the crash. The hospital had cameras. If they connect her to you, then we eliminate the threat before it reaches her," he stated, his voice cold and devoid of emotion, outlining the pragmatic solution. Victor's voice dropped to a deadly whisper, his eyes locking onto Dimitri's. "Is that clear?" Dimitri nodded slowly, understanding the unspoken order. "Crystal. Good. Now, tell me about Anton," Victor said, his voice hardening. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees, a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Anton Yurev, Victor's head of security, his most trusted enforcer, the man who had been in charge of route planning the night of the ambush, the man who was now under suspicion. "He claims it was random," Dimitri said carefully, choosing his words with precision. "Wrong place, wrong time. Says the Koslovs got lucky." "The Koslovs don't get lucky," Victor countered, his voice laced with barely suppressed rage. "They get information." Victor turned back to the windows, his gaze sweeping across the city, searching for answers in the neon-lit landscape. "Someone told them which route I'd take," he stated, his voice barely audible. "Someone knew I'd be alone, knew exactly when to strike." "You think it was Anton?" Dimitri asked, his expression betraying nothing. "I don't know what to think," Victor replied, his voice filled with frustration. "That's the problem." Victor's reflection in the glass was a ghostly apparition, pale and sharp, a haunting reminder of his brush with death. 20 years he's worked for us," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. 20 years of loyalty. But everyone has a price, Dimitri. Even you, even me. He paused, his gaze returning to the city. "Not the girl, apparently." Victor smiled, though there was no warmth in it, only a chilling calculation. "No, not her. She didn't even ask my name." He had been conscious enough to remember that part, the woman's selfless act, driven by compassion, not greed. The way she had argued with him, told him he was being stupid, saved him anyway without asking questions or demanding payment. In Victor's world, such actions were practically unheard of, anomalies that defied all logic. Everyone wanted something, everyone had an angle, a hidden motive. Except Maya Chen, apparently. "What are your orders?" Dimitri asked, his voice bringing him back to the present. Victor remained quiet for a long moment, his mind racing, weighing the options, calculating the risks. His enemies believed him dead, a valuable advantage that he couldn't afford to squander. But advantages were temporary, fleeting moments of opportunity. Eventually, someone would talk. Someone always did, whether through fear, greed, or a careless slip of the tongue. And when the Koslovs learned he had survived the ambush, they would inevitably retrace his steps, following the trail of breadcrumbs back to that fateful night. They would find the hospital records, connect him to the mysterious John Doe, and ultimately they would find her unless he moved first, acted decisively to protect her from the looming threat. "Pull men from the warehouse detail," he instructed, his voice firm and resolute. "Put them on rotating surveillance around her building. I want eyes on her 24/7. "That's excessive," Dimitri protested, his voice laced with concern. "For her, it's overkill." "I don't care," Victor said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Fix her bike. It's falling apart. A death trap waiting to happen. Pay her building super to upgrade her apartment lock. Install something secure. Make sure her mother's nursing home bills are covered for the next 6 months. And for God's sake, stop leaving cash on her doorstep like she's a charity case. Find a more discreet way to provide for her needs." Dimitri blinked in surprise, taken aback by the extent of his boss's concern. "Boss, with respect," he said, choosing his words carefully. "This girl is a complication we don't need. The smart play is to distance yourself, relocate her somewhere safe and forget about her." Victor turned to face his lieutenant fully, his eyes blazing with a fierce protectiveness. Even Dimitri, who had witnessed Victor kill men with his bare hands without hesitation, took an involuntary step back, sensing the raw intensity of his emotions. "She gave me her blood, Dimitri," Victor said, his voice low and dangerous. "Do you understand what that means?" He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. In the old country, that creates a bond, a debt that must be repaid, a sacred obligation that cannot be ignored. "We're not in the old country anymore," Dimitri countered, his voice laced with practicality. "The rules don't change just because we crossed an ocean," Victor said, dismissing his concerns with a wave of his hand. He picked up Maya's photograph from the file, studying her young, tired face, the defiant glint in her eyes as she stared at the camera in what appeared to be a DMV photo. An ordinary woman, thrust into extraordinary circumstances. She could have kept walking, could have called the police from a safe distance, could have let me bleed out and die in that mangled car, he said, his voice filled with a mixture of admiration and gratitude. Instead, she risked everything, her own safety, her precious time, her very blood, for a complete stranger, a man she knew nothing about. He set the photo down gently, as if handling a priceless treasure. "In a world of wolves, Dimitri," he said, his voice filled with a chilling resolve, "I found a lamb who doesn't even realize she's surrounded by teeth, and I will not let anyone devour her because of what she did for me. She is under my protection now, and anyone who tries to harm her will answer to me." Dimitri nodded slowly, his expression conveying his understanding. "Understood. I'll handle it personally, ensuring her safety. And Anton," Victor added, his voice hardening again, "I'll watch him. If he's dirty, he'll slip up eventually, make a mistake. When he does, bring him to me alive. I want to look in his eyes when he explains why he tried to kill me." Victor's smile was a blade, sharp and dangerous. "Then I'll show him what happens to traitors, the price of betrayal." Dimitri left to execute his orders, his movements efficient and purposeful. Victor remained at the windows, watching the city that both feared and obeyed him, his mind consumed by thoughts of the woman who had unknowingly changed his life. Somewhere down there, in that vast urban labyrinth, a girl pedaled through streets she thought were random, delivering food to people she would never meet again, completely unaware that the devil himself had claimed her as his, placing her under his unwavering protection. Maya's bike had been stolen 4 times in the past year, a constant source of frustration and inconvenience. She had learned to live with the dents, the squeaky brakes, the chain that slipped every 3rd block, accepting its imperfections as an unavoidable part of her daily life. It was unreliable, often frustrating, but it was hers, a vital tool for her survival. So when she came downstairs one morning to find her bike gleaming like new, its frame freshly painted, its tires replaced with brand new ones, its chain oiled and running silently smooth, she knew instinctively that something was terribly wrong. "Excuse me, miss," a voice said from behind her. Maya spun around, her heart pounding in her chest, her senses on high alert. A man in a black jacket stood near the building entrance, his arms crossed casually, his posture radiating an air of quiet confidence. Professional, alert, definitely not a resident of her building. "Who are you?" Maya demanded, her voice laced with suspicion. "Building security," he said smoothly, his expression betraying nothing. "Management hired us. There have been some break-ins in the neighborhood, a recent surge in criminal activity. We're here to provide a visible deterrent." "We don't have building security," Maya countered, her skepticism growing. "Mrs. Park can barely afford to fix the heating in the winter, let alone hire security guards." The man's expression remained unchanged, his professional mask firmly in place. "We're contracted," he explained, his voice calm and reassuring. "Privately funded. You don't need to worry about it. We're here to ensure your safety and the security of the building." Maya's grip tightened on her bike handles, her knuckles turning white. "And my bike," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Did management fix that too, without informing me?" "Safety concern," the man replied, his tone matter-of-fact. "Can't have you breaking down in dangerous areas, especially late at night. We want to make sure you have reliable transportation." This was insane, Maya thought, her mind racing. This was Victor Marino's doing, she was certain of it. "Victor Marino sent you, didn't he?" Maya said flatly, cutting through the facade. The man's professional mask slipped for just a fraction of a second. Surprise flickered across his face, betraying his carefully cultivated neutrality, before the neutral expression swiftly returned. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, his voice regaining its composure. "Right? Sure," Maya said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She swung her leg over her bike, preparing to leave. "Tell your boss I don't need babysitters," she said, her anger simmering just beneath the surface. She pedaled away before he could respond, her chest burning with a mixture of rage and frustration. Who did Victor Marino think he was? She had saved his life, yes, but that didn't give him the right to control her, to insert himself into her world without her consent. Did he think he owned her now? Did he believe he could just fix her things, watch her building, manipulate her life from the shadows? But over the next week, despite her best efforts to resist, Maya couldn't deny that her life had inexplicably become easier, less burdened by the constant struggle for survival. Her landlady, Mrs. Park, who had been relentlessly hounding her about overdue rent, mysteriously stopped mentioning the subject. "Don't worry about it, dear," the old woman said with a strange, nervous smile, avoiding eye contact. "Just don't worry about it. Everything will be fine." The broken lock on her apartment door, which she had been meaning to replace for months but couldn't afford, was replaced with a high-end security system that she definitely hadn't requested, complete with a keypad and a remote control. Her mother's nursing home called to inform her that an anonymous benefactor had generously paid her account in full for the next 6 months, alleviating a significant financial burden that had been weighing heavily on her shoulders. And everywhere Maya went, she saw them, the silent guardians, the watchful protectors. Men in dark clothing, always at a distance, always observing, their presence both reassuring and unsettling. They were in coffee shops, on street corners, outside her delivery stops, always vigilant, always aware of their surroundings. They never approached her, never spoke to her, but they were always there, a constant reminder of the debt she had unknowingly incurred. One night, after a particularly exhausting shift, Maya found a bag of groceries waiting outside her door. Good stuff, not the cheap, processed food she usually bought, but fresh vegetables, high-quality meat, the expensive bread she couldn't usually afford, a luxurious feast that she couldn't justify purchasing herself. No note, no explanation, just a silent offering from her mysterious benefactor. She wanted to throw it away on principle, to reject his unwanted generosity and reclaim her independence. Instead, driven by hunger and exhaustion, she made herself dinner for the first time in weeks, savoring the delicious flavors and hating how good it tasted, how easily she could become accustomed to this newfound comfort. "This is ridiculous," Maya muttered to herself, her voice laced with frustration. "This can't keep happening. I need to put a stop to this." 2 days later, fueled by a growing sense of resentment and a desperate desire to regain control of her life, she confronted one of the watchers, a young guy, maybe 30, trying to blend in at a bus stop where he clearly wasn't waiting for a bus, his gaze constantly scanning the surroundings. "Your boss owes me a debt, right?" Maya said, planting herself directly in front of him, blocking his view. The man studied her with something that resembled respect, his expression softening slightly. "Then the debt is paid," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Tell him we're even. Tell him to leave me alone. I don't need his help." The man shook his head slowly, his eyes locking onto hers. "Doesn't work that way." "Why not?" Maya demanded, her voice rising in frustration. "Because you gave him something he can never repay," the man replied, his voice matter-of-fact. "So he'll spend the rest of his life trying to. That's just the way he is. Our boss takes his debts seriously, especially blood debts. He doesn't believe in leaving things unpaid." "I don't want his money," Maya protested, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't want his protection. I just want—" Dmitri leaned back, his gaze intense as he scrutinized her. "You think we're the problem here, but we're not. We're actually the solution to a problem you don't even know exists yet." "What problem?" she asked, bewildered. "Victor Marino has enemies," Dmitri stated, his voice hard. "Dangerous enemies. When they find out a delivery girl saved him, and they will find out, those enemies become your enemies." Dmitri's expression was like granite. "So yes, we watch you. We protect you because if something happens to you, our boss will burn the city to the ground finding out who did it. And nobody wants that." Maya's hands trembled around her coffee cup. "I just wanted to help someone." "You did," Dmitri said flatly. "Now live with the consequences." He stood, dropping a wad of cash on the table. "The men stay. The protection stays. Your mother's bills stay paid. This isn't negotiable." He was halfway to the door when Maya called out. "Does he know?" she asked, her voice laced with anxiety. "Does Victor know I'm trying to refuse all this?" Dmitri turned back, and for the first time, something almost like sympathy flickered across his face. "He knows," he said softly. "That's why he respects you." Then he was gone, leaving Maya alone with the terrifying realization that she'd become important to the most dangerous man in New York, and there was absolutely nothing she could do about it. Maya hadn't expected Victor Marino to just show up at her door looking like a regular guy. But there he was, standing in her apartment hallway at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, wearing jeans and a plain black sweater, looking almost ordinary. Almost. Nothing could completely hide the predatory intelligence in those dark eyes, or the way he carried himself like violence was always just one decision away. "You're him?" Maya breathed, one hand still on her doorknob, ready to slam it shut. "May I come in?" His voice was quieter than on the phone, carefully controlled. "I promise I'm not here to threaten you. Just to buy me, apparently," she retorted, her voice laced with sarcasm. Victor's expression tightened. "I'm here to explain. 5 minutes, then I'll leave if you want." Every instinct told Maya to refuse. But curiosity, that same dangerous curiosity that made her stop for a car crash, won again. She stepped back, letting him enter. Her studio apartment looked even smaller with him in it. Victor's gaze swept across the space. The unmade futon, the stack of unpaid bills on the counter, the single photograph of her mother on the windowsill. He didn't comment, but Maya saw the calculation in his eyes, taking in how she lived, understanding exactly how desperate her situation had been. "Nice place," he lied. "Cut the crap. Why are you here?" Victor turned to face her fully, and Maya noticed he moved carefully, favoring his left side. Still healing. She'd given him blood just 3 weeks ago, and he was already walking around like nothing had happened. "I saw you on the news this morning," Victor said, his voice low. "The traffic report. You were in the background making a delivery in Times Square." Maya's stomach dropped. "So my enemies watch the news, too? They're looking for anything unusual around the time I disappeared," Victor explained. "A delivery girl who suddenly has security following her. That's unusual." He stepped closer, and Maya forced herself not to back away. "You were safe as long as you stayed invisible. But visibility is dangerous in my world." "Then tell your people to stop following me around," she demanded. "I can't," Victor said, and for the first time his control cracked slightly. Frustration bled through. "Don't you understand? Someone tried to kill me. Someone who knew my route, knew my schedule, knew I'd be alone. That person is still out there, still looking for loose ends. And you, Maya-chan, are the loosest end of all." "I don't know anything," she protested. "I didn't even know your name until you told me." "Doesn't matter," Victor countered. "They'll assume you do. They'll come for you just to be sure." His voice dropped, becoming even more menacing. "I've seen what these people do to witnesses. I won't let that happen to you." Maya's anger warred with fear. "You're saying I'm in danger because I saved your life? That's insane." "Welcome to my world," Victor said, his voice devoid of emotion. She wanted to scream, wanted to throw him out, wanted to rewind 3 weeks and keep pedaling past that crash. But none of that would change reality. "Who are you?" Maya demanded, her voice shaking. "I mean, really? I've seen your name online, Victor Marino. They say you're connected to organized crime, money laundering, extortion, maybe worse." "They say a lot of things," Victor said, his expression unreadable. "Are they true?" Victor was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he admitted, his voice low. "Most of them." His honesty caught her off guard. Maya had expected denials, excuses, justifications. Not this blunt admission. "Then why would I trust you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Because I haven't lied to you," Victor said, his gaze unwavering. "Not once." He moved to her window, looking out at the street below, where his men were undoubtedly watching. 3 weeks ago, I was bleeding out in a car, and a stranger stopped to help. She didn't check my pockets for cash, didn't ask for a reward. She just helped. Do you know how rare that is? Common decency shouldn't be rare, but it is. In my world, everything has a price. Everyone wants something. Loyalty is purchased. Trust is a weakness. And kindness?" He turned back to her, his eyes intense. "Kindness gets you killed, yet you showed me kindness anyway. You gave me your blood without knowing if I deserved it." "Maybe you didn't deserve it," Maya said softly. "I definitely didn't deserve it," Victor agreed, something dark crossing his face. "I've done terrible things, Maya. Things that would make you sick if you knew. I'm not a good man, but I am a man who pays his debts." "I don't want." "I know what you want," Victor interrupted, his voice low and urgent. "A normal life, bills you can pay, time with your mother before she forgets you completely, freedom from watching every penny." His gaze was intense, pinning her in place. "I can give you all of that, not as payment. You can't pay for what you did, but as respect. You saved my life without asking who I was. That's why I respect you." Maya's throat tightened. "Respect isn't protection. Respect isn't men watching my building and paying my rent." "No, but it's why I'm here in person explaining instead of just doing," Victor countered. He pulled out a card, different from the one his man had given her. Heavier stock, embossed lettering. "My private number. You call that, you get me directly. Not Dimitri, not my men. Me." "Why would I need that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because sooner or later, you'll have questions or problems," Victor said, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. "Or you'll just want to yell at someone for ruining your life. I can handle all three." Maya took the card slowly, feeling its weight in her hand. "And if I still say no? If I still want you to leave me alone? Then I'll respect that too," Victor said, his voice soft. "But the protection stays." Whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you like it or not, you're under my protection now. That's not negotiable. He moved toward the door, then paused, turning back to her. You gave me a second life, Maya. The least I can do is make sure you get to keep living yours. He left as quietly as he'd arrived, and Maya stood in her small apartment, holding a crime lord's business card, finally understanding the terrible truth. Victor Marino wasn't trying to control her. He was trying to save her from the consequences of saving him. And somehow that was so much worse. The warehouse on the Brooklyn waterfront smelled like salt, oil, and old blood. Victor stood at the head of a long table. His inner circle gathered around him like wolves circling a wounded king. Anton Yurov sat to his immediate right, where he'd sat for 15 years. Loyal, efficient, deadly. Victor's personal enforcer, the man who'd trained him to fight, who'd saved his life in Chicago, who'd sworn a blood oath to the Marino family. The man Victor now suspected of trying to kill him. The Koslovs are getting bold, Dmitri was saying, spreading photographs across the table. They hit 3 of our shipments this week. They're testing us, seeing if the rumors of your death are true. Let them test, Victor said calmly, his voice like ice. When I'm ready, we'll remind them what happens when you come for Marino. When will you be ready, boss? This from Sergei, his youngest captain. Hungry, ambitious, still proving himself. Every day we wait, we look weak. We look patient, Victor corrected, his gaze sweeping the room. There's a difference. They think I'm dead. That gives us an advantage. We use it. Anton leaned forward, his expression intense. We should strike now. Hit them where it hurts. Their drug operations in Queens. Send a message that you're alive and they're finished. It was good advice, tactically sound. Exactly what Anton would normally suggest, which made Victor suspicious. No, Victor said, his voice flat. We wait. Anton's jaw tightened. Boss, with respect, waiting makes us look afraid. Your father never. My father is dead. Victor's voice cut like a blade. Killed by men who got too close because someone told them where to find him. I won't make the same mistake. The room went silent. Everyone knew the story. Victor's father, Elizio Marino, ambushed in his own home 5 years ago. The betrayal that started this whole war, the reason Victor trusted almost no one. You think there's still a rat? Sergei asked carefully, his eyes darting around the room. I know there is, Victor said, his eyes finding Anton's. Someone knew my route that night. Someone knew I'd be alone. Knew the exact window of vulnerability. That information came from inside this room. Anton's face remained neutral, but Victor saw the tension in his shoulders. You think it's one of us? I think someone made a deal, Victor said, his voice low and dangerous. Someone who decided the Koslov money was worth more than our family's blood. Victor stood slowly, his presence dominating the room. And when I find out who, I'll make them beg for the mercy of a quick death. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Dmitri cleared his throat, breaking the tense silence. There's another complication. Victor's expression darkened. What about her? Word's getting out, Dmitri explained. Low-level Koslov soldiers are asking questions about a delivery girl seen near the hospital the night you disappeared. They're connecting dots. Then disconnect them, Victor said, his tone icy. Boss, Anton interjected, and Victor heard the calculation in his voice. The smart play is to eliminate the girl. She's a liability. If the Koslovs get to her, they'll use her against you. But if she disappears now, the trail goes cold. The room held its breath. Victor turned slowly to face his oldest friend, his most trusted enforcer, and saw the test for what it was. Anton was probing, trying to understand how much Victor cared about Maya Chen, trying to find the weakness he could exploit. Say that again, Victor said quietly, his voice dangerously soft. Anton met his gaze steadily. You know I'm right. One girl's life against the safety of the entire organization. It's not even a choice. You're absolutely right. Victor agreed, his voice deceptively calm. It's not a choice. The girl lives. Anyone who touches her dies. Those are my orders. That's not strategic, Anton protested, his voice tight. I don't care. Victor's voice rose for the first time, raw emotion cracking through his control. She gave me her blood, Anton. She saved my life when she had every reason to let me die. That creates a bond, a debt that supersedes strategy. Debts can be paid in cash. Anton pressed, his eyes unwavering. Send her away. Set her up somewhere safe. But keeping her here under our protection paints a target on her back and ours. The target's already there, Victor said, his voice hard. Now we deal with it. Anton leaned back, something unreadable in his eyes. You're willing to risk everything. Our operations are war with the Koslovs. For a girl you don't even know? Yes, Victor said without hesitation. Because if we become the kind of organization that murders innocent civilians to protect ourselves, we're no better than the animals we're fighting. Maya-chun is off limits. That's final. Then you've gone soft, Anton said, and there was an edge to his voice now, steel beneath velvet. Your father would never. Victor moved faster than anyone expected. One moment he was standing at the head of the table, the next his hand was around Anton's throat, slamming him against the wall with enough force to crack plaster. My father is dead because someone he trusted betrayed him. Victor hissed, his face inches from Anton's. Don't make me wonder if history is repeating itself. Anton didn't struggle, didn't fight back, just stared at Victor with those cold, measuring eyes. After a long moment, Victor released him and stepped back. Meeting's over, Victor announced, his voice flat. Everyone out except Dmitri. The room cleared quickly. Anton was the last to leave, straightening his collar, his expression unreadable. When they were alone, Dmitri spoke carefully. You're sure about this? Protecting the girl could split our ranks. Then our ranks are weaker than I thought, Victor said, his voice dismissive. He poured himself a shot of vodka, his hand steady despite the adrenaline still flooding his system. Anton's testing me, pushing to see how far I'll go. Maybe he's just being practical. Or maybe he's the rat. Victor downed the vodka in one swallow. Double his surveillance. I want to know everyone he talks to everywhere he goes. And Dmitri. Yes, boss? Triple Maya's security, Victor ordered. If Anton's dirty, he'll try to prove I'm compromised by going after her. I want her protected like she's my own blood. Because in a way, Victor thought she'd given him life. And in his world, that meant he'd give everything, including his empire, to keep her safe, even if it destroyed him. The delivery order seemed normal at first. Chinese food, apartment 4B in Williamsburg, generous tip. Maya had done 100 deliveries just like it. She should have noticed the address didn't match any building on the block. Maya realized her mistake when she arrived at the location. An empty lot between a closed laundromat and a pawn shop. No apartment building, no 4B, just cracked asphalt and graffitied walls. Her instincts screamed danger. She was reaching for her phone when the van pulled up, blocking her exit. 3 men stepped out, moving with coordinated precision, not random thugs. Maya-chun? The one in front asked, smiling in a way that sent shivers down her spine. We've been looking for you. Maya dropped her delivery bag and ran. She'd grown up in rough neighborhoods, knew how to sprint through alleys, vault over chain-link fences, navigate the urban maze. But these men were trained, and they were faster. A hand grabbed her jacket. Maya spun, slamming her elbow into someone's face, felt bone crunch. The man cursed in Russian, and terror spiked through her chest. Russian. These weren't random criminals. These were Koslov men. She broke free and kept running, her lungs burning. Behind her, she heard footsteps, shouts, the squeal of tires. They were hurting her, boxing her in. She turned down an alley dead end. Turned back, blocked. A black sedan screeched around the corner, cutting off her escape. This was it. This was how she died. Because she'd saved a stranger's life 3 weeks ago. The sedan's back door flew open. Get in. A familiar voice, one of Victor's men, the one she'd confronted at the bus stop. Now Maya didn't hesitate. She dove into the car. The door slammed shut, and the driver floored it, tires screaming as they shot forward. Behind them, the Koslov van gave chase. "Stay down," the man barked, pulling out a gun. Maya pressed herself to the floor, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Gunshots cracked through the air. The rear window exploded, glass raining down. The car swerved violently, throwing her against the seat. "How many?" the driver yelled. "2 vehicles. For maybe 5 shooters." The man returned fire through the broken window. "Call Dmitri. Tell him we're compromised." They rocketed through Brooklyn streets, weaving between traffic, running red lights. Maya caught glimpses through the window. Pedestrians diving for cover. Other cars slamming on brakes. Chaos spreading in their wake. Another gunshot. The car lurched as a tire blew out. "Hold on," the driver yelled. He executed a controlled spin into a narrow side street, momentarily losing their pursuers. He didn't slow down. They crashed through someone's chain-link fence, bounced across a basketball court, and emerged onto another street entirely. For a moment, Maya thought they'd escaped. Then the van appeared again, ramming them from the side. Metal crunched. Maya screamed as they went up on 2 wheels, teetering at the edge of rolling. The driver fought the wheel, somehow keeping them upright. "Warehouse District," the driver gasped, his face pale with strain. 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. But they didn't have 2 minutes. The van rammed them again, harder this time. Maya's head cracked against the doorframe. Stars exploded across her vision. Blood. She was bleeding, warm liquid running down her face. Victor's man was still shooting, trying to take out the van's driver. "Boss is going to kill us if anything happens to her," he muttered. "Boss is going to kill us anyway." The driver shot back, his voice grim. They careened around another corner. Maya saw the warehouse ahead, a massive concrete structure surrounded by more black SUVs. Victor's territory. Safety. The van saw it too. They accelerated, trying to cut them off before they reached protection. They weren't going to make it. The van pulled alongside, a man leaning out with a pistol aimed directly at Maya through the broken window. She saw his finger tighten on the trigger, saw her death in his eyes. Then the man's head snapped back, a red mist exploding where his face had been. More gunshots, but not from Victor's men in the car. From the warehouse, snipers on the roof providing cover fire. The van swerved wildly, losing control, clipped a parked car and flipped, rolling 3 times before coming to rest upside down. Victor's sedan skidded to a stop inside the warehouse compound. Hands grabbed Maya, pulling her from the car. She stumbled, her legs barely working, her vision swimming with shock and adrenaline. "You're okay," someone was saying, his voice urgent. "You're safe now." But Maya didn't feel safe. She felt like a bomb had gone off in her life, obliterating everything normal, everything predictable. Dmitri appeared, his face grim. "Get her inside. Medical team, now." "I'm fine," Maya managed, though blood still dripped from her forehead. "You're not fine. You were almost killed." Dmitri's voice was harsh, but not unkind. "This is what I warned you about. This is what happens when you get involved with our world." "I didn't ask to get involved," Maya said, her voice breaking. "I just wanted to help someone. And now people are trying to kill me." "I know," Dmitri said, his expression softening slightly. "And I'm sorry truly, but it's done now. You can't unknow what you know. You can't unsave Victor's life." Maya's legs finally gave out. She sank to the cold concrete floor, trembling uncontrollably. "I want this to stop. I want my life back." "That's not possible anymore," Dmitri said, crouching beside her. "Then what am I supposed to do?" "You survive," Dmitri said, his voice firm but gentle. "You let us protect you, and you accept that normal is never coming back." Behind him, the warehouse doors opened again. Victor strode in, his face a mask of cold fury. When he saw Maya on the floor, bleeding and shaking, something in his expression cracked. He knelt beside her, gently tilting her chin up to examine her wound. His touch was surprisingly careful. "Who did this?" Victor's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. Koslov's, Dmitri reported, his voice tight. They lured her with a fake delivery order. Ambush. How did they know where she'd be? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Only Victor's inner circle knew Maya's delivery routes. Only someone with access to their surveillance could have planned this so precisely. Victor's jaw tightened. Anton. We don't know that for certain, Dmitri cautioned. I know, Victor said, his voice like steel. He stood, and Maya saw the monster beneath the man, saw the killer who'd built an empire on fear. Bring Maya to my estate. Maximum security. No one in or out without my personal approval. Boss. She'll be safer if we spread her across. She stays with me, Victor said, his tone leaving no room for argument. I should have done this from the start. No more half measures. No more assuming my people are loyal. He looked down at Maya, and his expression softened marginally. I am sorry. I should have protected you better. That ends now. Maya wanted to argue, wanted to refuse, wanted to tell him she'd rather take her chances alone than live in a crime lord's fortress. But as she looked at the blood on her hands, at the shattered car behind her, at the burning wreckage of her normal life, Maya realized she had no choice left. She was in Victor Marino's world now, whether she wanted to be or not. Victor's estate sat on 5 acres in Westchester, hidden behind high walls and dense trees. To the outside world, it looked like any other mansion owned by New York's elite. Inside, it was a fortress. Maya sat in the passenger seat of Victor's armored SUV, watching the iron gates close behind them with a finality that made her chest tight. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras tracked their every movement. This wasn't a home. This was a prison disguised as luxury. The guest wing is prepared for you, Victor said, his first words since they'd left Brooklyn. A doctor will check your head wound. You'll have everything you need. Maya touched the bandage on her forehead. Except my freedom. Freedom is overrated when you're dead, Victor said, his voice flat. The car stopped in front of a massive colonial mansion, all white columns and elegant windows. It looked like something from a movie. Maya had never felt more out of place in her life. Inside was worse. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. A housekeeper appeared, an older woman with kind eyes who introduced herself as Mrs. Petrov, and led Maya upstairs while Victor disappeared into what she assumed was his office. The guest room was larger than her entire apartment. A king-sized bed with silk sheets, a private bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people, a walk-in closet already stocked with clothes in her size, which was both thoughtful and deeply creepy. Mr. Marino asked me to prepare these for you, Mrs. Petrov explained, noticing Maya's stare. He wanted you to be comfortable. He knows my clothing size? Maya asked, her voice incredulous. He knows everything, dear, Mrs. Petrov said, her smile sympathetic. It's his nature. She paused. Dinner is at 7 o'clock. You're welcome to join him, or I can bring something to your room. Maya wanted to hide in her room, wanted to pretend this wasn't happening, but hiding wouldn't change anything. I'll come down, she said, her voice barely audible. The doctor arrived shortly after, a nervous man who examined her wound with shaking hands, declared it minor, and left as quickly as possible. Maya suspected he was terrified of Victor, and that probably wasn't without reason. She showered, washing away the blood and fear, trying to scrub off the memory of those men chasing her. Guns firing, her life hanging by a thread. But the water couldn't wash away reality. At 7, Maya made her way downstairs, following voices to a formal dining room. Victor sat at the head of a long table, reviewing documents with Dmitri. Both men looked up when she entered. You came, Victor said, seeming genuinely surprised. You're keeping me prisoner, Maya retorted. Might as well enjoy the amenities. Victor's lips twitched, almost a smile. You're not a prisoner. You're a guest under protection. Semantics, Maya countered, her voice tight. Seat. Victor gestured to the chair beside him. Please. Not at the far end of the table. Just like she figured, but darn close. Dmitri gathered his papers, staying within earshot. "I'll leave you to dinner." "Stay," Victor said. Maya should understand the situation fully. So they ate. Mia barely tasted some fancy meal while Dmitri laid out the reality of her new existence. The Koslovs knew she'd saved Victor. They'd tried to grab her for questioning or as leverage. The ambush wouldn't be the last try. "We're hunting the leak," Dmitri said. "Once we figure out who gave them information, the threat goes way down." "You think it's Anton?" Maya asked, surprising them both. Victor's eyes narrowed. "What makes you say that?" "I pay attention. I saw how he looked at you during." She stopped. "Wait, how do I know about Anton? I've never met him." "Your protection detail reports everything," Victor admitted, "including conversations you overhear when my men think you're not listening." Maya's fork clattered against her plate. "You're spying on me? I'm protecting you. There's a difference." "No, there really isn't." For the first time, Victor looked uncomfortable. "You're right. I apologize. Old habits." The apology caught Maya completely off guard. She'd been expecting deflection, justification, anything but actual remorse. "Why am I really here?" Maya asked quietly. "Not the protection speech. The real reason." Victor was silent for a long moment, studying his wine glass. "Because everyone I trust is suspect. Everyone in my organization could be the traitor. But you—" He looked up, meeting her eyes. "You have no reason to betray me. No connections to my enemies. You're the only person in my life I know is safe." The vulnerability in his voice was startling. This was the man who'd built an empire on fear, and he sounded lonely. "That's sad," Maya said. "That you trust a stranger more than your own people. It's survival." After dinner, Victor offered to show her the grounds. Maya almost said no, but the mansion walls felt like they were closing in. She needed air even if it meant walking with a criminal. The gardens were beautiful. Manicured lawns, rose bushes, a fountain that probably belonged in a museum. They walked in silence until they reached a chess table under a gazebo. "Do you play?" Victor asked. "My dad taught me before he left." Victor sat, gesturing for her to join him. "One game. If you win, I'll answer any question honestly. And if I win, you give this place a chance. Stop treating it like a prison." Maya considered. "Deal." They played as the sun set, and Maya was surprised to find Victor wasn't just good. He was exceptional. But she'd learned from her father, who'd played in tournaments before alcohol ruined him. She knew tricks Victor's formal training hadn't covered. 15 moves in, Maya saw her opening. A gambit that would sacrifice her bishop but expose his king. "You're better than I expected," Victor murmured, studying the board. "People underestimate delivery girls. I won't make that mistake." She moved her rook. "Tell me about your father." Maya moved her rook. "Why?" "Because I want to know you. You're not just the girl who saved my life anymore. You're here in my home, part of my world whether either of us planned it. I should know who you are." It was manipulative, a strategy to make her comfortable, to lower her guard. Maya knew this, but she told him anyway, about her father's disappearance, her mother's slow fade into dementia, the crushing weight of trying to hold everything together alone. And Victor listened, really listened, asking questions that showed he actually cared about the answers. "Check," Maya said softly, moving her queen. Victor stared at the board. "I didn't see that coming. Most people don't." He smiled, a real smile this time, not the cold mask he wore like armor. "Checkmate in 3 moves. Well played, Maya-chun. I win. So, answer my question." She met Maya's eyes. "Are you a good man trying to survive a bad world, or a bad man who occasionally does good things?" Victor's smile faded. He stood, walking to the gazebo's edge, looking out at his fortress of a home. "I don't know anymore," he said finally. "But since you came into my life, I've started hoping I could be the first one. That has to count for something." It was the most honest thing anyone had said to Maya in years, and somehow that scared her more than the guns, the chase, or the danger because it meant Victor Marino wasn't just a monster. He was human, and humans could break your heart. Maya had been at the estate for 5 days when she accidentally discovered the truth about Anton. She couldn't sleep. Nightmares of car chases and gunfire kept jolting her awake. So, she'd wandered downstairs around midnight looking for the kitchen. Instead, she found Victor's office door ajar, voices drifting out. She should have walked away, should have respected his privacy. But Maya had never been good at should. Can't keep stalling. Dmitri was saying, we need to move on the Koslovs before they hit us again. Not until we find the leak. Victor's voice was tired. Every plan we make gets back to them. Every safe house is compromised. We're bleeding information. You think it's Anton? Not a question, a statement. I know it's Anton. I just can't prove it. Maya leaned closer, her heart pounding. Anton Yurev, Victor's head enforcer, his oldest friend, the man who'd suggested eliminating her to protect the organization. 20 years of loyalty, Dmitri said quietly. He saved your father's life in Chicago, trained you himself. What would make him turn? Money, fear, blackmail. Does it matter? Victor sounded hurt. Without proof. I need proof that won't get back to him. He's too careful, too smart. He knows I'm watching. Maya heard ice clinking in a glass. Someone pouring a drink. What about the girl? Dmitri asked. She's an outsider. She sees things we don't. Maya. Victor sounded hesitant. What could she possibly? She has no preconceptions, no loyalties clouding her judgment. Sometimes fresh eyes see what familiar ones miss. Silence stretched. Then Victor. I won't put her in more danger. She's already in danger. Might as well make it mean something. Maya made her decision. She pushed the door open fully, stepping into the office. Both men turned, startled. I can help, Maya said. Victor's expression hardened. You were listening. Your door was open, your voices carried. And yes, I can help. Absolutely not. Why? Because I'm just a delivery girl? Maya crossed her arms. I've been here 5 days. I've watched your people come and go. I've noticed things. What things? Dmitri asked, curious despite himself. Maya took a breath. Anton visits every day, right? Always at the same time, always for exactly 1 hour. But 3 days ago he left after 40 minutes, and he was on his phone the moment he got outside. I saw him from my window. Victor leaned forward. So he got a call that made him leave early. And that night, the same night, the Koslovs hit your warehouse in Queens, the one you thought was secure. The room went very quiet. Could be coincidence, Dmitri said slowly. Could be, Maya agreed. But that's not all. Yesterday, Anton brought you a financial report, right? About the Brooklyn operations? How do you know that? Victor's eyes narrowed. I was in the garden. The window was open. I heard you discussing it. Maya ignored his disapproving look. He recommended consolidating 3 warehouses into 1 central location. Said it would be more efficient. Standard optimization, Dmitri said. Or a way to put all your eggs in 1 basket so the Koslovs can destroy them in a single hit. Maya pulled out her phone. Victor had reluctantly given her one with restricted access. Can I see a map of those warehouse locations? Victor and Dmitri exchanged glances. Victor nodded. Dmitri pulled up a digital map on the office computer. Maya studied it, her delivery driver's knowledge of New York geography kicking in. The central location he suggested. It's here, right? She pointed. That's 3 blocks from known Koslov territory, and there's only 2 access roads, both easy to block. If they hit that warehouse, your people would be trapped. Victor stood slowly, moving to look at the map himself. It's tactically vulnerable. It's a trap, Maya said. He's trying to consolidate your resources where the Koslovs can destroy them all at once. This is speculation, Victor said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then test it, Maya suggested. Give Anton false information, something valuable that only he knows. If it gets to the Koslovs, you have your proof. Dmitri's eyes lit up. A canary trap. Feed him a unique piece of intel and see if it flies. Victor walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. the weight of betrayal crushing down on him. "He was my father's best friend," Victor said quietly. "He taught me everything. How to fight, how to lead, how to survive in this world. And now he's trying to destroy you," Maya said, not unkindly. "People change. Or maybe they were never who you thought they were." Victor turned to face her. "If you're wrong, then you've lost nothing but a little trust. If I'm right, you've saved your organization." Maya held his gaze. "You said I'm the only person you know is safe. So trust me." The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Finally, Victor nodded. "Dmitri, prepare the trap. We'll feed Anton information about a major shipment coming through Newark. High value, minimal security, make it too tempting to ignore." "And when the Koslovs show up?" Dmitri asked. "We'll be waiting." Victor's expression went cold. The vulnerable man from the chess game disappearing behind the mask of a crime lord. "With everything we have." He looked at Maya. "You were right. You do see things we miss. I pay attention. It's what kept me alive on the streets. It might keep us all alive now." Victor moved closer, and Maya was struck again by the intensity of his presence. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when this works." "When it works," Victor said. "I owe you another debt, one I'm beginning to think I'll never be able to repay." Maya smiled slightly. "You could start by letting me have internet access on this phone. Watching gardening shows on the estate TV is killing me." For the first time in days, Victor laughed, a real, genuine sound that transformed his face. "Done." "But Maya?" "Yeah. Stay away from windows when Anton's here. If he suspects you're helping me, you become an even bigger target." "Understood." As Maya left the office, she felt the weight of what she just set in motion. If she was right, they'd expose a traitor. If she was wrong, she might cause an innocent man to be killed. But watching Victor's face as he talked about betrayal, Maya knew she was right. Anton Yurev was the ghost in Victor's machine, and ghosts, she'd learned, were most dangerous when you couldn't see them coming. The trap was set for Friday night. A phantom shipment worth $5 million supposedly arriving at a New York warehouse with minimal security. Only Anton knew the details: location, time, cargo manifest. Everything designed to be irresistible to the Koslovs. If Anton was the traitor, they'd come. Maya wasn't supposed to be there. Victor had been explicit. She would stay at the estate with double security while he handled the confrontation. But Maya had spent her whole life being told what she couldn't do, where she couldn't go. She'd stopped listening years ago. She borrowed clothes from one of the estate guards, dark pants, black jacket, boots that actually fit. Slipped out during the shift change when the new guards were still getting briefed, made it to the service road and called the one person who might help her. "This is stupid," Dmitri said, but he let her into his car anyway. "If Victor finds out, he'll be furious." "I know," Maya buckled in, "but I need to see this. I need to know if I'm right and if you're wrong. If this gets people killed, then I'll live with that, but I won't sit in a mansion while other people fight battles I helped start." Dmitri studied her in the rearview mirror. "You're braver than you look, delivery girl." "I am terrified. There's a difference." They drove to Newark in silence. The warehouse district was an industrial wasteland. Abandoned factories, empty lots, the skeleton of old America rusting away. Victor's people were already in position, hidden in shadows on rooftops, in vehicles that looked abandoned but weren't. Dmitri parked 3 blocks away. You stay in the car, windows up, doors locked. Anything goes wrong, you drive away. Keys are in the ignition. I don't know how to drive. Tonight's a good night to learn. He left her there, disappearing into the darkness. Maya sat in the passenger seat, her heart hammering, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. The warehouse was lit by a single floodlight, casting harsh shadows. Victor stood near the entrance, visible and vulnerable, bait for the trap. Anton was beside him, 20 years of loyalty and friendship about to be tested. Maya checked her phone. 11:47 p.m. The shipment was supposedly arriving at midnight. At 11:52, Anton's phone buzzed. Maya saw him check it, saw his expression change. He said something to Victor, gestured toward the far side of the building. Victor nodded, and Anton walked away toward the shadows, toward a position that would put him behind Victor's men when the Koslovs arrived, getting into position to attack from within. Maya's stomach dropped. She'd been right. God, she'd been right. At 11:58, the Koslovs came. 5 vehicles, at least 20 men, armed with automatic weapons. They surrounded the warehouse with military precision, cutting off escape routes. This wasn't a grab and run. This was an execution. The lead vehicle's door opened. A man stepped out, tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. Alex Koslov himself. He'd come personally to watch Victor die. Marino. Alex's voice echoed across the empty lot. I know you're in there. Come out and maybe I'll make this quick. Victor emerged from the warehouse, hands visible, seemingly unarmed. Alex, I'd say it's good to see you, but we both know that's a lie. You're supposed to be dead. Disappointed only that I have to kill you twice. Alex raised his hand, and his men lifted their weapons. Any last words? Just one. Victor smiled. Now, the night exploded with gunfire. Victor's hidden men opened up from every angle. Rooftops, windows, parked cars. The Koslovs scattered, returning fire, chaos erupting. Alex dove behind his vehicle, screaming orders. But something was wrong. Maya saw it immediately. Anton wasn't shooting at the Koslovs. He was aiming at Victor's men, taking them down from behind. 3 men fell before anyone realized the threat was internal. Anton. Victor's voice cut through the gunfire. I gave you every chance. Anton turned, his gun now pointed directly at Victor. Your father was weak. This organization needed new leadership. So, you chose the Koslovs? You chose traitors over family? It's survival. Anton fired. Victor moved, but not fast enough. The bullet caught his side, spinning him around. He went down, clutching his ribs. Maya didn't think, didn't plan, just acted. She was out of the car, running toward the warehouse, screaming Victor's name. Dmitri tried to grab her, but she was already past him, driven by pure instinct. Anton saw her coming, swung his gun toward her. The girl, perfect. This is your fault. You made him soft. He pulled the trigger. Click. Empty chamber. Anton's eyes widened. He reached for another magazine, but Maya was already there. She grabbed a piece of rebar from the ground. Rusty, heavy, perfect, and swung with everything she had. The metal connected with Anton's wrist. Bones cracked. The gun flew from his hand. Anton lunged at her, but Maya was faster, driven by fear and fury. She delivered food through the worst neighborhoods in New York. She knew how to fight dirty. She went for his eyes, his throat, anywhere vulnerable. Anton was bigger, stronger, trained, but he wasn't expecting a delivery girl to fight like she was possessed. He slammed her against a wall. Pain exploded through her back, but Maya had survived worse. She drove her knee into his gut, then grabbed his collar and headbutted him with everything she had. Anton staggered back, blood pouring from his nose. Then Victor was there. He moved like death itself, wounded but unstoppable. His hand closed around Anton's throat, lifting him off the ground. 20 years, Victor hissed. 20 years of brotherhood. And you sold us for what? Money? Fear? Anton choked, clawing at Victor's grip. They had leverage. My daughter. You don't have a daughter. My sister's daughter. They threatened. Anton's voice was desperate now, real terror in his eyes. They said they'd kill her if I didn't. You should have come to me. Victor's voice broke slightly. I would have protected her, protected you both. Instead, you got my people killed. Victor, please. Victor's hand tightened. Anton's face turned purple. His struggles weakened. Don't, Maya said quietly. Don't become what he feared you were. Victor's eyes met hers. She saw the war inside him. Rage against mercy, justice against vengeance. Slowly, he lowered Anton to the ground. You're done, Victor said. Finished. You'll tell me everything. Every deal, every secret, Every piece of information you sold. Then you'll disappear. If I ever see you again, mercy ends. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The Koslovs had retreated, Alex among them. His attack failed. Victor's men secured the perimeter, tending to their wounded. Victor turned to Maya, blood seeping through his shirt. You shouldn't be here. You're welcome, Maya said. Then her legs gave out. Victor caught her before she hit the ground, and Maya realized she was crying, deep shaking sobs of relief and terror and adrenaline crash. I've got you, Victor murmured, holding her steady. You're safe. I've got you. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Maya believed him. The hospital room was too white, too sterile, too quiet after the chaos of the warehouse. Maya awoke to find Victor in the chair beside her bed. His left side heavily bandaged, his face drawn with exhaustion. He was staring at nothing, lost in thoughts she couldn't read. You look terrible, Maya said, her voice rough. Victor's head snapped up. Relief flooded his features. You're awake, the doctor said. He stopped himself. How do you feel? Like I got thrown against a wall by a trained killer. Maya tried to sit up, wincing. Which I did. How long was I out? 18 hours. Concussion, bruised ribs, strained shoulder. Victor's jaw tightened. You could have died. So could you. That's twice I've saved your life now. You're getting expensive to know. Maya, this isn't funny. I know it's not funny. She met his eyes. But if I don't joke about it, I'll start thinking about how I hit a man with a metal pipe, how I saw people die, how close we came to. Her voice broke. Victor moved from the chair to the edge of her bed, carefully taking her hand. His touch was warm, solid, real. You are incredibly brave, he said quietly, and incredibly stupid. I told you to stay at the estate. Since when do I follow orders? Never. That's becoming clear. He looked down at their joined hands. Anton's talking gave us everything. Names, deals, accounts. The Koslovs had his niece, threatened to kill her if he didn't cooperate. Maya felt a strange pang of sympathy. That doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. Yes. Victor's expression was complicated. I let him go, gave him money to disappear, take his niece somewhere safe. Dmitri thinks I'm weak for it. Dmitri is wrong. You're showing the one thing Anton never gave you, mercy. Victor looked at her then, really looked at her, and Maya saw something shifting in his eyes, something dangerous and warm and terrifying. The police came, he said, changing the subject, asked questions about the warehouse. Anton's confession gave them enough to move on the Koslovs. They're making arrests. Money laundering, racketeering, attempted murder. Alex and his top people will be in prison by month's end. And you? I made a deal. Victor's smile was bitter. Full immunity in exchange for testimony. The FBI's been trying to take down the Koslovs for years. I gave them everything they needed. Maya's eyes widened. You turned state's evidence against your own world? It's not my world anymore, or it won't be. After this, Victor stood, moving to the window. Dawn was breaking over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Anton's betrayal taught me something. This life, this empire built on fear and violence. It consumes everything, everyone. I'm tired of feeding it. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done. I'm dissolving the organization, turning everything legitimate. I have businesses, properties, investments, all legal, all clean, or they will be once I restructure. He turned back to her. I am retiring, Maya. From all of it? Maya stared at him. Victor Marino doesn't retire. Men like you don't just walk away. Men like me usually end up dead or in prison. I'm choosing option 3, a life. His voice softened. You gave me that chance twice, once with your blood, once with your conscience. I don't want to waste it. What about your people? The ones who depend on you? They'll be taken care of, severance, new positions in legitimate businesses, help transitioning out of this life if they want it. Victor moved back to her bedside. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm setting them free, setting myself free. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Because of me? Because of you, because you reminded me that kindness exists, that not everything has to be a transaction, a power play, a war. He touched her face gently, thumb brushing away a tear. You gave me a second life. I want to use it to become someone worthy of that gift. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Maya felt the pull. This dangerous, complicated man who'd turned her life upside down but was somehow trying to make it right. What happens now? She whispered. Now you recover. Then you decide. Victor's hand dropped back to his side. You can go back to your apartment, your deliveries, your old life. I'll make sure you're safe. The Koslovs are finished, and no one else will come after you. You'll be free. Or you let me help you build something new. The delivery business you mentioned wanting to start. I have the capital, the connections, the resources, not as payment, as partnership, as friendship. He paused. Or whatever you want it to be. Maya's heart raced. Victor, don't answer now. He'll first think about it. Just know that whatever you choose, I respect it. You saved my life twice. The least I can do is give you the freedom to live yours however you want. A nurse entered, interrupting the moment. Victor stepped back, becoming formal again, the crime lord's mask sliding into place. But Maya had seen beneath it, had seen the man trying to crawl out of the monster skin, and she realized something that, it both terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She didn't want to say goodbye to him. Not yet, maybe not ever. Victor, she called out as he moved toward the door. He turned back. Thank you for everything, for the chaos and the protection and the second chances. Victor smiled, that genuine smile she'd only witnessed a handful of times. Thank you for showing me there's still good in this world, even in people like me. Then he was gone, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts, her healing body, and the impossible choice ahead, normal or extraordinary, safe or significant, the girl she'd been or the woman she could become. Maya gazed out at the sunrise, contemplating delivery routes she'd never ride again, bills she'd never struggle with, a mother who barely remembered her name. And she thought about Victor Marino, ex-crime lord, recovering monster, the most dangerous and somehow most honest man she'd ever met. She had 6 months to decide her future, but deep down, Maya suspected the choice was already made. 6 months later, the seaside cafe in Montauk was everything Maya had dreamed of during her endless delivery shifts. White tables with ocean views, the smell of salt air mixing with fresh coffee, tourists laughing as seagulls stole their fries. She'd bought it 3 months ago with a legitimate business loan co-signed by someone who'd restructured his entire empire to become a real estate developer. The cafe was hers, really, truly hers. Maya's Bistro and Delivery read the hand-painted sign outside. She'd kept the delivery, part of the name, as a reminder of where she came from, who she'd been before blood and bullets changed everything. The delivery service was thriving, with 15 drivers, all former struggling students like she'd been, all paid fair wages with health insurance and actual days off. Maya knew their routes, knew their struggles, and made sure they never felt as alone as she once had. Her mother had passed away 2 months ago, peacefully in her sleep, finally free from the confusion that had stolen her mind. Maya had been there, holding her hand, telling her stories about the cafe, even though her mother couldn't understand anymore. It hurt, but it was also a relief, an ending that felt like grace. Maya was arranging pastries in the display case when the black car pulled up. Her heart jumped. Old instincts died hard. But this car was different. A Tesla, not an armored SUV, elegant, not threatening. The driver's door opened, and Victor stepped out. Maya hadn't seen him in person since the hospital. They texted occasionally, brief updates, professional boundaries. He had respected her space, let her build her new life without his shadow looming over it. But she'd thought about him more than she wanted to admit. He looked different. The expensive suits were gone, replaced by dark jeans and a simple white button-down. His hair was slightly longer, softer. He looked younger somehow, less like a crime lord and more like a man who'd finally learned to breathe. Victor approached the cafe entrance, paused, then came inside like any other customer. "Welcome to Maya's," she said. her voice steadier than she felt. "What can I get you?" Victor's lips twitched. "Coffee, black, and whatever pastry you recommend. The lemon scone is good. I made it this morning. Then I'll trust your judgment." Maya prepared his order, hyper-aware of his eyes following her movements. When she set the cup and plate before him, their fingers brushed. Electricity sparked between them, still there, that connection forged in blood and chaos. "You built something beautiful," Victor said, looking around the cafe. "I'm proud of you. I built it myself. Well, mostly myself." Maya wiped down the counter, needing something to do with her hands. The loan helped. The loan was business. This, he gestured to the warm space, the happy customers, the life she created. "This is all you." They stood in awkward silence for a moment. So much had changed. So much remained unspoken. "I saw the news," Maya said finally. "The Klav convictions. 23 people going to prison. Justice, finally." Victor sipped his coffee. "Alexei got 15 years. Won't survive it. He's made too many enemies. But that's not my problem anymore. And you really retired. Really retired. I develop affordable housing now. Ironic, isn't it? I spent years taking from people. Now I'm trying to give back." He smiled self-deprecatingly. "Dmitri thinks I've lost my mind. He's probably right. Dmitri still works for you?" "With me. He runs security for my properties, legitimate security. No guns, no threats, just protecting tenants and investments." Victor's expression softened. "Most of my people transitioned out. A few couldn't leave the life, but many did. They're building normal lives just like you." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "You really did it. You got out. We both did." Victor held her gaze. "You once gave me your blood, Maya. That night in the rain, you saved a dying stranger without asking questions, without expecting anything. That act of pure kindness, it changed everything. Not just my life, but my perspective on what life could be." "Victor, let me finish." He stood, moving closer. "I've been in darkness so long. I forgot what light looked like. Then you appeared. This stubborn delivery girl who refused my money, fought my protection, saw through all my walls to the man trapped behind them. You gave me a second life, not just physically. You gave me a second chance at being human." Maya's eyes stung with unshed tears. "You did that yourself. No, you lit the path. I just finally had the courage to walk it." Victor reached into his pocket, pulling out an envelope. "I came here to give you this. It's not payment. You can't pay for what you did. It's completion." Maya opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single document. The title to her cafe's building, fully paid off, transferred into her name. "The loans are cleared," Victor said quietly. "The building is yours, no strings, no debts, no obligations. You're completely free, Maya. Free of me, free of the past, free to build whatever future you want." "Victor, I can't. This is too much. It's not enough. It will never be enough." He smiled, and Maya saw peace in his eyes. Real peace. "You gave me blood when I was dying. Now, let me give you what you've always deserved. Security, peace, a foundation you can build on without fear." Maya looked at the document, then at him, and felt something shift inside her. The fear that had colored their relationship, the power imbalance, the danger, the impossible gulf between their worlds, was gone. They were just two people who'd saved each other in different ways. "Stay," Maya said impulsively. "Have your coffee. Tell me about your affordable housing projects. I want to hear about the man Victor Marino became." Victor's smile reached his eyes, genuinely happy for perhaps the first time since she'd known him. "I'd like that." He sat at the counter, and Maya poured herself coffee, joining him. They talked as the morning sun climbed higher, as customers came and went, as the ocean breeze washed through the open windows, carrying salt and possibility. They talked about her business plans, his construction projects, neutral topics that slowly became personal. Laughter came easier than expected. The darkness of their shared past faded into something softer, not forgotten, but transformed into the foundation for something new. This feels normal, Maya said eventually. Strange, isn't it? After everything, normal is underrated. Victor finished his scone. This was excellent, by the way. You have talent. High praise from a man who probably ate at five-star restaurants every night. I ate alone in mansions surrounded by people I couldn't trust. This, he gestured between them. This is better than any five-star meal I ever had. As the lunch rush began and Maya needed to return to work, Victor stood to leave. But he paused at the door, turning back. I meant what I said about no obligations, he said. But Maya, if you ever want company for coffee, or someone to talk to about business challenges, or just... He trailed off, vulnerability showing through. Just know I'm here as a friend, if nothing else. Maya smiled. I'd like that. Friends, Victor agreed. He walked to his car, and Maya watched him go. Not with fear or confusion like before, but with something warmer. Hope, maybe, or possibility. Victor paused with his car door open, looking back at the cafe, at her one last time. And Maya waved. It wasn't love, not yet. Maybe it never would be. But it was something genuine. Something earned through shared trauma and mutual redemption. She'd given him blood, and he'd given her freedom. The debt was paid. But as Victor drove away and Maya returned to her cafe, to her new life built on the ashes of the old one, she realized something profound. Sometimes the best relationships aren't born from passion or romance, but from two broken people choosing to heal in each other's presence. She'd saved a dying stranger and discovered a kindred spirit. He'd survived death and learned to live. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The sea breeze carried away the last remnants of their violent past, leaving only the promise of peaceful tomorrows. Maya Chin poured another coffee, smiled at her customers, and felt, for the first time in her entire life, completely wonderfully free.